You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
The views and opinions expressed on GoPro Radio Network shows are solely those of the speakers and are not necessarily the views or opinions of GoPro Radio Network Inc. or its affiliates. These broadcasts are provided on the understanding that they do not constitute professional advice or services. Individuals who speak on these broadcasts express their own opinions, experiences, and conclusions. GoPro Radio Networks and its affiliates do not necessarily endorse or oppose any particular opinion or conclusion discussed in these broadcasts. You may not edit or modify or redistribute these broadcasts in any way without the express permission from GoPro Radio, LLC. GoPro Radio assumes no liability for any of your activities in connection with our broadcast or for your use of these broadcasts in connection with your website, computer, smartphone, tablet, iPad, or future listening devices. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a great opportunity. If you have a product or service, a talent or something important to say, now's your chance to have your own radio show. Whether you're just starting out or a veteran looking for a professional platform to enhance your presentation, the GoPro Radio Network is the premier place to cultivate and share new and exciting content. We'll help you to grow your audience and keep it growing long after your first broadcast. Now you have a voice. Call 212-696-8562 today or visit www.goproradio.com and you'll be amazed at how easy and affordable it is to have your own radio show on the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio. Listen to the voices in your head.
You're listening to content developed by the GoPro Radio Network, the fastest growing network in the galaxy. GoPro Radio Network. Listen to the voices in your head.
For the people.
Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
Spends a lifetime begging for acceptance into the same government that made slaves of its people.
Ladies and gentlemen, and brothers and sisters all, I'm very glad to be here this evening.
America has never really addressed the problem of justice for black people.
Today, minority children face inequalities in school spending and even more. They face punitive testing and accountability agendas.
When you elect these Negroes, you think that it's going to change our condition. It does not change.
We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
All right. Welcome, one and all, to the Colored Only Cafe, where the conversation is always hot, black, and strong. I am your host, Tylon Xavier Washington, and today is Wednesday, is June the 6th, and we're here in New York City, and we have like a smog, smoke alert, as if the air wasn't already bad. It's looking pretty horrible out there, so everybody who has like a elderly person that they need to check in on, your grandma, your auntie, your mother, cousin, friend, definitely check up on them and make sure that their AC is working or they're taking their breathing medicines, because it looks like a scene out of a movie. Someone sent me a meme. I gotta share it. New York City, and I think most of the folks here on this east side, anybody downwind of Canada, There is some kind of smoke alert, and the air quality is horrible. Like I said, it was horrible before the smoke, so now this just makes everything worse. But anyway, I digress. We'll be talking about some of that a little bit later. Welcome once again. Welcome our folks. Welcome panelists, people who are loading in. We're going to have a really, really terrific show today, talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is music. And this month, if you don't know already, is Black Music Month. So, stop sharing. So, we're going to have a show. We're going to talk about music. We're going to talk about black music in particular. I have a idea, philosophy, ideology, if you will, that all music is black music. The earliest instruments was found in the motherland, the drum. But we're going to be talking to some folks who may join us, who have a long history in music. One of which I see, good, Sonny is here, so we're going to have a conversation with Sonny. Oh, High Sparrow is here. Oh, our panelists are checked in. Jacqueline is here. Coltaze Ransom is here. Dr. Ron Christopher Osborne William is here. He's just coming off doing his show. He has a fatherhood program that runs right into the show from like 7 to 9. So he'll be here. I'm sure he wants to chime in on this conversation that we're going to have today, which is really, really interesting. We're going to talk about what happened to black music. And then also, we have time, we're going to be talking about this Skechers commercial with Mr. T. It's good to see Mr. T. He looks pretty good. Looks healthy. Looks like he's doing what he's supposed to do. But we're going to be talking about the black music, the roots of it. And also we're going to be joined by Deshaun Farad, who's going to always give us the Black World Report. And we're going to check in with our panelists who are here in the room. Really, really smart people. And for folks who are watching us on Facebook, we are on Facebook Live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks, by the way, for your comments. I do read your comments when it go to GoPro. They really mean a lot because it says you're taking time out of your day. You give a shit about the show, and you're taking a moment to give me notes. And I listen in on those shows. I listen into the comments. You might want to mute Javon. Welcome, Javon. One of the commentaries that I listen to, people who watch the program on Facebook and they reach out and
what's that, Black Power?
All right. Oh yeah, Deshaun Farad is here. He's in the house as well. People are loading in. Welcome. The Mighty Sparrow, she's here. It's always good to see her when she's on camera. Brother Pete, who brings the heat, is here. And there's other folks loading. We're going to get the conversation started. But I want to explain, because that was one of the comments. People don't really quite understand what the Colored Only Cafe is, so I guess I got to do it, because sometimes when you're doing things and it's in your head, you know what it is that you're doing, and sometimes you just start out having these elevated conversations, right? And people are like, no, what is it? I don't get it. What's this? What am I looking at? It seems interesting. And I guess if you watch it enough, you'll get the idea that this is a place, a safe space for people of color, black people, to come together and really have really frank and open conversation. Now, what's different and what's unique about the program is that we actually encourage and we actually look for the complexity, the diversity of voices to come up under one roof. We actually do believe that more voices make our society better. It makes the black world better, hearing from each other and getting used to hearing the different perspectives and points of view. And we believe that it's actually healthy to do that. And we've been programmed through COINTELPRO, through our unique history in this country, how the blacksman, the light skin against the dark skin, the young, the old, all of these different divisions that are unimportant, really, and not only unimportant but insignificant compared to the real challenges that we face. So we're trying to reverse engineer some of that with this program, so people can understand that because somebody disagree with you doesn't mean that we don't love you. Doesn't mean that you're not part of the family or the group. You see things differently. You know, maybe we may change your heart or your mind, you know, to something, maybe not in the moment, maybe later on down the road, but it's just good that we hear each other and get used to hearing each other. Get used to, you know, reaching out and getting out of our safe zones, right? Because it's like the algorithm. If you search certain things on the internet, that's all will come up on your feed. And that's like our life, right? We get around people who think like us and identify with our thought processes and stuff. So, but anyway, but this is a healthy group, really, really brilliant people. And not only brilliant people, but really, really good people. And I think that's incredibly important, to have good people coming together with a sincere kind of commitment towards, you know, having honest and frank discussion, sticking to, you know, what it is that they feel, think, believe, and leaving room. Just leave a little bit of room for other thoughts and ideas to exist. And then you'll actually find out that sometimes our, you know, disagreements are semantics, or our disagreements is just we haven't been heard and we're passionate, we heard something, or maybe we're hurt and we're feeling some kind of way, and through talking to other people we get a chance to process what these feelings and thoughts and ideas are. So that's the concept behind this experience and this experiment. This concept is about just bringing, you know, diverse voices together. Maybe you'll hear your voice, and if you don't hear your voice, you're welcome to come into the room and be heard. So that's what the Colored Only Cafe is all about. You know, we're going to get the music started, but let me, as we always do at the top of the program, we make sure that we introduce all the players and all the people who are our distinguished panelists who take some really important time out of their day to be a part of the conversation and discussion. And at the top of the heap is my brother Pete. How are you, brother Pete? And he hails out in Washington, D.C. How you doing, brother Pete?
Oh, I'm trying to make it through, bro. I got some issues going on, and yeah, some serious issues.
Can we talk about it, or there's something off air we got to talk about?
Off air.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you know I'm with you. Well, it means a lot that you're here, knowing that you got all that to deal with, and you're in the room. Brother Pete is our Wazir. He's a Black Panther. He's a community activist. He's a, you know, when I talk about somebody who's active in terms of helping people, feeding people in real time, he does that kind of work out in Washington, D.C., and it's always good to have him up in the house. Thank you for joining us. And then we have filmmaker, entrepreneur, a really brilliant guy who does, you know, all kinds of stuff. He wears all kinds of hats. His name is Caltaze Ransom. How you doing, Caltaze?
Hey, I'm hanging in there, man.
All right. You hanging in there. You got to throw me a rope. You can't be hanging. We can't both be hanging in there. You got to be up there and throw me a rope so I can get out of the situation.
Well, I mean, when I say that, I mean, I'm just still in the fight. That's all.
There you go. But you know what? He has a brilliant film. It's out now. You can get it on the DMV network. It's a Black-owned network.
Yeah.
What? I said it wrong. I got the numbers wrong. I got the letters.
No, you got the letters right, but it's Stream DMV.
Stream DMV. Yep, definitely. Go check him out. Check out his film. Support his film. It's
the Eternal Extra.
Yep, yeah. It's the Eternal Extra. And then maybe he'll talk a little bit more about some of the other film projects that you're working on. And then also we have Javon Dimitri. He's in the house. Actor, entrepreneur. We have all the way from Germany, Sheila Silver, who is here. Hi, Sheila. It must be like 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
Hello, and in your neck of the woods. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. And then we have no other than Sonny B. Sutherland from 91.5 WNYE. He's my early instructor at Mega Everest. Welcome, Sonny. He is an entrepreneur, radio personality, just all around good guy, clever. He has some really interesting points of view. He's always, he has no filter. Just gonna let you know right now, folks. He filterless person. He's like the on-boat troll. We used to have Bigfoot, but now maybe Bigfoot is free at last. Maybe that's him. He always has these outrageous names. But Sonny's here in the house just to fill that space when our good friend Bigfoot's not here. And then we have Sparrow. I'm gonna say Sparrow. Yeah, Sparrow is here. How you doing, Sparrow? How's things been going?
Hey, fighting a good fight, you know.
Yeah. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you for joining. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation because, music is a very much part of what you do in terms of dance and theater and all that kind of what we call outreach work you do to some of the vulnerable communities here in New York. Well, we're going to get everything started at the top of the show. I'm going to take one of our viewers' advice and say we're going to go into the news report first after this really brief message. I'm going to do the intro once again, and don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back in 1 minute with Your Black World News Report with Deshaun Farad.
Fellow citizens of Africa, I greet you in the name of the Universal Negro Improvement Association.
Send the lifetime, begging for acceptance into the same government that made slaves of his people.
Ladies and gentlemen, and brothers and sisters all, I'm very glad to be here this evening.
America has never really addressed the problem of justice for black people.
Today, minority children face inequalities in school spending and even more. They face punitive testing and accountability agendas.
When you elect these Negroes, you think that it's going to change our condition. It does not change.
We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So it is time for Your Black World with Deshaun Farad. You give him 12 minutes. He will give you the world.
Hotep Peace family, Black Power. Well, after decades of challenging the Republican and Democratic parties, Professor and activist Dr. Cornel West announced on Monday that he is running for president in 2024 as the candidate of the Independent Progressive People's Party. In a video statement, Dr. West declared that he was running for truth and justice as a presidential candidate for the People's Party and to reintroduce, as he says, America to the best of itself, fighting to end poverty, mass incarceration, ending wars, and ecological collapse, guaranteeing housing, healthcare, education, and living wages for all. Of course, this is That's definitely classic Cornel West. I'm sure that most of us on here remember that just less than a decade ago, Dr. West, along with Tavis Smiley, who will be interviewing him tomorrow, both caught hell for their criticism of then President Barack Obama, who they felt was neglecting the African-American community as well as poor people. So this right here comes as a shock because of the fact that Dr. West has been so anti-establishment. Many people are saying it'll be very interesting for him trying to become a member of the inside or trying to get on the inside. So that right there, that's, and just to let you know, he's already shaking up. He's already raising eyebrows from members of the establishment. And so, like I said, right now, social media is lit with Dr. West making this announcement. But just to let you know, it's already causing a storm. Okay, it's already causing a storm. And of course, we wish Dr. West luck with bringing his message to the forefront, because many people are already saying they're not at all criticizing Dr. West, but they're saying that this is what is referred to as a statement campaign. This is when you decide to run for office to bring particular attention to a particular issue that you feel strong about. Speaking of the presidential field, Republican South Carolina Senator Tim Scott, right now people are still criticizing him for statements that he made on The View this past week. As you know, The View was they were very hard on him the other day, Joy Behar in particular, saying that he's out of touch with the African-American community. And quite naturally, you have people specifically Black conservatives that are saying, well, Joy, how dare you as a white liberal tell a Black person, the condition of the African-American community. But anyway, he caught hell. He's catching criticism because he said that when he's referred to as an exception to the rule in terms of racism, you remember he denies that America is racist. And it's ironic to me, and I'm giving a brief commentary now, how when Kamala Harris had said that he and both at the same time, he and Vice President Harris had said that America is not a racist country. But it is amazing to me how no one had a problem with a Black Democrat saying that, but when a Black conservative says it, Black folk want to jump all over them, because we have this thing in the Black community that we've been programmed to think that the Democrats are all bad. I'm assuming that the Republicans are all bad and that the Democrats are our heroes. So anyway, Sunny Hostin, I believe, right, one of the hosts of The View, had gotten to, she wanted to know, why do you say that, saying that you are the exception, your success is the exception to the rule about America being a racist country? And he said that if you tell young African Americans that being successful is an exception, he said that that's dangerous and it's disgusting. Okay, and so, you actually have a lot of people who agree with him for saying that. But the main issue that many Black folk have with him is that he's denying that systemic racism exists. And he uses himself as an example, saying that he was raised by a single Black mother. He got his first job at 9 years old, the whole pull you up from your bootstraps story. But keep in mind, there have been other people within our community, Elijah Muhammad, Marcus Garvey, Booker T. Washington, who said that Black people need to do the same thing. But the difference between a Tim Scott and most Black conservatives, when you compare them to a Marcus Garvey and Elijah Muhammad, Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, is that they still acknowledge that racism and white supremacy is very much real. So he's been pushing back, and right now it's still causing a storm. So as you know, 2 weeks ago rather, he jumped into the race. And right now, so far on the Republican side, the presidential field is growing, which takes me to another subject. Many people are saying, many political analysts, including Bakari Sellers, had said yesterday on CNN that he thinks that former President Donald Trump is happy that there's so many people entering into the race because it increases his chances of nabbing the nomination on the Republican side. Family, just to let you know, this month, June, is Black Music Month. A lot of people aren't aware of that. Or African American, I should say, June is African American Music Appreciation Month because, of course, we have a history outside of America. This was created, or it was declared such, by President Jimmy Carter in 1979. It celebrates, of course, African-American musical influences that comprise an essential part of the nation's treasured cultural heritage. Now, please keep in mind, family, that unlike most places, African-American music was born out of pain, struggle, okay? Beginning with the so-called Negro spirituals, which were actually liberation songs, but they were still songs that were birthed in misery. We were creating these songs to express our desire to be free, and they ended up becoming revolutionary songs because they were actually code songs. During the Underground Railroad, we were telling people, we were actually sending messages to each other, we as Black people on the plantations, through the songs. And of course, as you know, during slavery in most parts of the country, with the exception of Congo Square in New Orleans, that was the only place in the country where enslaved Africans were allowed to practice the drum. Congo Square to this day at 12 o'clock at noon, Congo Square, New Orleans, Black people still get together and they party there, but this is a carryover from the Black Holocaust, slavery, because this was the only place in the country where enslaved Africans, as I said, were allowed to play the drum. So this was a way that they were allowed to let their steam off. The slave masters would allow enslaved Africans to let off steam. But dealing with African-American music, you definitely have to study the history of New Orleans. But keep in mind, from the Negro spirituals, once we were let off the plantation, we created what? We created the blues. And then from the blues came jazz. Okay, so remember, the blues was talking about suffering. And of course, we just finished mentioning Dr. Cornel West. He always says that he gives an example of B.B. King. Of course, B.B. King, when B.B. King says, "Don't nobody love me but my mama," and even she might be jiving. Oh, I'm sorry. All this time, I'm thinking that I'm on camera. I'm sorry, family. I had to take the thing off. As Cornel West said, when B.B. King says that "don't nobody love me but my mama," and even she might be jiving, he says that's the blues. Okay, so keep in mind that the foundations of African American, what's considered to be American music, you would not have that without Black people. And something that my professor Yusuf Ali used to always say when talking about jazz, Professor Yusuf Ali used to teach musicology and ethnomusicology at Rutgers and at William Patterson University, both universities in New Jersey. He described jazz as America's classical music. Okay, just like Europe has Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, he said, for us, we have Ella Fitzgerald, Dizzy Gillespie, Miles Davis, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Cab Calloway. He said those are our classical musicians. Okay, so keep in mind. So also this month being celebrated too is what is referred to as, pardon me one second, family. Oh, right, of course. This here is recognized as Pride Month. People who identify as LGBTQ are celebrating this month. Unfortunately, Black Music Month is most of the time overshadowed for Pride Month. Pride Month came much later. And keep in mind, the term pride to describe gay identifying people was stolen from Black people, okay? Black pride, that's originally where it came from. And then white folks identifying as gay, when they were establishing the gay rights movement, they actually took many things from the Black liberation struggle. That's why the pride flag has the rainbow flag. It resembles what flag? The red, black, and green flag. There's a documentary on PBS or Channel 13 explaining how gay white people actually took that flag from the red, black, and green flag. And it is sad how so many Black people who identify as LGBTQ don't know this history, so they end up creating Black pride, which describes Black people who will be identified or identify themselves as gay, whereas the term Black pride, it was that right there. Originally, when you look at old pictures from the 60s and 70s, you see Black pride is describing all Black people. But many gay and queer identifying African Americans make the same mistake that most African Americans make in not knowing our proper history. Calling themselves following after white folks, they want to say, okay, well, we're going to celebrate Black pride, whereas Black pride was already in existence. It didn't just describe one segment of the Black community. But this month was designated as Pride Month in June of 1999 by then President Bill Clinton. He had declared that the anniversary of the Stonewall riots every June in America as Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And then in 2011, President Barack Obama expanded the officially recognized Pride Month to include the whole of the LGBTQ community. So that right there. So also, which has been taking place since last week, but has gotten actually worse, forest fires in Canada, as well as in New Jersey, and I believe in another state, are right now plaguing the Northeast, the continent of the United States, the northern part. When I mean plaguing, if you live in Connecticut, Maine, New York, all those states directly underneath, I believe it's Quebec. Okay, the Northeast Sea, the Northeastern Seaboard, if I'm saying it correctly. Right now, we're feeling the effects. It's being smoked out. It's like you go outside of the giant campfire. And anyone in the New York City area, New Jersey, Connecticut know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, family. So right now, they're saying that they're instructing people to kind of stay in the house unless it's absolutely necessary, because this smoke can be very dangerous. They're telling people. So right now, they're saying that this situation should be cleared out by this Friday. The situation should be a little lightened, but by next week, by Monday or Tuesday, when the weather should, sweep it right out, the smoke that is from this area. 1 second, family. Oh, yes. A woman has been arrested in Ocala, Florida. White woman by the name of Susan Louise Lorenz, 58 years old. She's been arrested on charges of manslaughter with a firearm, as well as culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault, according to the sheriff's office. She's accused of fatally shooting a A.J. Owens, a black woman, through a closed door on Friday night.
White Florida woman who fatally shot black neighbor through front door arrested. A white woman in Florida who fatally shot her black neighbor through her front door has been arrested, authorities said. Susan Lorenz, 58, was on Tuesday charged with manslaughter with a firearm in relation to the death of 35-year-old A.J. Owens last week, the Marion County Sheriff's Office said. Authorities claim that a major crimes unit investigation found that the killing began with Lorenz becoming angry at Owens's children as they played in a field near her home in Ocala. As the incident unfolded, Lorenz allegedly threw a roller skate at Owens's 10-year-old son and swung at her children with an umbrella, authorities say. When they told their mother what happened, Owens knocked on Lorenz's door multiple times and demanded that Lorenz come outside. It was then that authorities say Lorenz fired a single shot through the door. Lorenz allegedly claimed she'd acted in self-defense, but detectives were able to establish that Lorenz's actions were not justifiable under Florida law, the sheriff's office said. Her manslaughter charge could be punishable by 30 years imprisonment. She is also charged with culpable negligence, battery, and 2 counts of assault.
Thank you very much. And of course, just to let you know, Ben Crump is he's the main attorney representing the family right now. If she's found guilty, if that white woman is found guilty, the manslaughter charge alone carries a sentence of at least 30 years. Moving on to another tragedy. This one right here was definitely a heartbreaker. Taking our attention to Richmond, Virginia. At a graduation, a father and son were killed in a mass shooting, actually after a high school graduation. Tyler, we have that? Yeah, let's pull up some of that right now. Oh, did you pull it up, or are we gonna? Okay. Well, 2 people were killed and several others were hurt. Oh, I couldn't hear you, Tyler.
Okay, yeah, I had my mic off. Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now.
Right. Well, 2 people were killed and several others were hurt in a mass shooting following this graduation. The suspect, 19-year-old Emery Ty John Pollard, is in custody in connection with the shooting, which unfolded yesterday after the Huguenot High School graduation ended in a nearby theater.
On that graduation day tragedy in Richmond, Virginia, gunmen opening fire just moments after a high school ceremony held on the campus of Virginia Commonwealth University. 2 people were killed, including an 18-year-old who had just received his diploma. At least 5 others were hurt. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist knows the area well. He's a VCU graduate, also went to high school there in Richmond as well. Aaron, good morning to you.
Craig, good morning to you. You're right. The graduation ceremony was just ending here. As you said, I graduated from Richmond Public Schools. I was inside this building for my sister's graduation 25 years ago, so I can tell you from experience there were hundreds of people standing outside this building yesterday celebrating, hugging, taking photos when those gunshots rang out. The police were very close by. They were able to stop the suspected shooter very quickly. He is now facing second-degree murder charges.
Yes, and that, of course, that's quite tragic, and something similar like that happened actually a few months ago, another shooting at a graduation, I believe in Virginia as well, nearby. I believe it might have been, I hope it's not Richmond, but it was definitely in Southern Virginia, but I actually reported on it for Michi X. You know, of course, we definitely wish the family well. That's very tragic, a father and a son taken out, but also, Tyler, what wasn't mentioned in that story, his little sister, and I'm presuming as a result of her scattering about, was hit by a car, his 9-year-old little sister, but she survived. And you have several other people that are in critical condition right now, but his sister was hit by a car, but I can imagine, they said at the scene. So obviously she was running to, you know, she was scattering about, a little girl, she was trying to save her life, but she survived being hit by a car. So she'll be all right, okay, from the reports. Taking our attention to California, as it prepares to release a report that will recommend reparations for descendants of enslaved people.
Break for those whose lives were lost. Richmond's mayor outraged his community is the latest target of senseless gun violence.
Oh, Tylon? Oh, I'm sorry, brother. I was doing the story, bro. I can't hear you, brother.
All right, okay. I was getting the reparation stories ready.
Right, I'm doing the reparation ones now. Yes. Right now, as I was explaining, federal lawmakers are pursuing their own efforts to redress the effects of slavery and the generations of discrimination that has followed for African Americans. Representative Cori Bush, a Democrat from Missouri, who I was with actually last May in DC, she has introduced the latest federal effort to support reparations last month with HR 414, otherwise known as the Reparations Now Resolution, which seeks to advance reparations at the federal, state, and local levels. And of course, Bush said that the country has a moral and legal obligation to repair the lasting harm caused by the enslavement of millions of Africans and by practices such as segregation and redlining on subsequent generations. Now, the resolution indicates that a minimum of $14 trillion would be necessary to close the racial wealth gap and other inequities. The resolution comes as the California Reparations Task Force, established in 2020 to study and develop proposals, wraps up its work. Following a 500-page interim report last year, the group has held multiple public hearings and will release its final report by July 1st. And of course, we've had on this show before, and he was supposed to be with us last week, someone that me and Brother Pete works with, Brother John Cheeks, who wrote the Washington, D.C. recovery bill. And in this bill, John has actually done what I refer to, he's actually updated the reparations petition, if you would. And so from the perspective of a John Cheeks, he's explained how the reason why African Americans are not getting reparations is because we're going about it wrong. And the current reparations plan will require every American, white and black included, to pay into a reparations fund, and taxes will go up. And so John, what he explains, for those who may not be aware, he explains that the way that you get reparations is that you don't go after taxpayers, you go after the entities that were responsible for our enslavement, such as the universities and colleges, such as the insurance companies, the banks, the corporations. And just to let you know, I believe Brother Pete was with us in 2018. You're right, 2018. We had met with some of the descendants of those Black people, the descendants of the enslaved Africans who had actually built Georgetown University in DC. And it actually, with Georgetown, has said that if you can prove that your ancestors built the university, you can come for free. Well, that's part of the reparation package that John Cheeks has proposed. So just to let you know, a lot of what you hear, Yvette Carnell and Tariq Nasheed, the ADOS and FBA movements, is nothing new. There were already people doing that for decades, okay? And I believe that a lot of the language that, say, Yvette Carnell uses actually comes from what John Cheeks wrote in the DC Recovery Act. But there are other people, unfortunately, a lot of people who are new to reparations, they think that Yvette Carnell and Tariq Nasheed, they're literally treating them like this is something new. But some of us up on this panel have been involved in the reparations fight for quite some time. Okay, and as I get ready to wrap it up, the African Risk Capacity launches the first flood risk insurance product in Africa. The ARC, this group is launching a new insurance mechanism for African countries to cope with the devastating effects of flooding. And keep in mind, family, too, this is important because too often African countries have to rely on European countries and Asian countries and Arab countries and America. Okay, so this parametric insurance product will provide countries with predictable and rapid financing for early response to cope with emergency disaster events caused by floods. The mechanism is a significant milestone in building resilience to climate-related disasters on the African continent and in complementing the ARC solutions. Now, the number of flood events in Africa have increased significantly, including in many major urban centers and coastal areas. These have resulted in numerous deaths and the displacement of millions of people and caused significant damage to property and farmlands worth billions of US dollars. Unfortunately, a lot of this is because of climate change, the occurrence of floods in ARC member states. Okay, because there's certain African states that belong to ARC, all of them don't belong to ARC. The occurrence of floods in these member states, ARC member states, has become more frequent and increased in intensity in recent decades. So this here, family, was set up, and if you are an African American, an African Caribbean, an African European, please remember what Dr. John Henrik Clarke said. He said, Pan-Africanism or perish. He said that anything that we in the diaspora do, any initiative, any program we do, Africa should always be at our center. I'm Dashawn Farad. You're listening to the Black News Report, Hotep Black Power.
All right, Hotep Black Power. Thank you. Thank you for that report, brother. Thank you. And folks, will definitely want to support Dashawn Farad. Please give out that Cash App. Folks who may be watching this later on, folks who are watching on Facebook, Lydia says Hotep, give out that Cash App real quick.
Doing it right now. Well, D Farad, which is $ at D Farad, and I'm on Venmo at Dashawn Farad, and I'm at Zelle at Dashawn Farad. But once again, Cash App $D Farad, DFARAD, and on Venmo with my full name. Venmo and Zelle with my full name.
All right. Okay, well, thank you again, man. I don't know what to think about all this, these fires and the air quality. I don't know what the heck that's about. I just don't trust the narrative. I mean, this thing is going to be around for like days. And I know we're downwind of Canada, but there seems to be a lot of fires. If you do your research,
and 13 states have been put on advisories.
Yeah, it's like, I wonder what this is about. I wonder what's in that smoke. But anyway, I digress. Let's keep the show going. We have this very, very important question about black music, and I definitely believe that music is so essential to our struggle, or was. I don't know about that being true today with the kind of music that we're hearing that is always poisoning the minds, particularly and especially of the most vulnerable in our community, some of the young people who hear song after song that celebrates death, that refers to themselves in very negative and derogatory terms, which is not healthy.
Can you turn the mic up a little bit?
Sure. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better now?
Well, a little bit more.
Oh, you know what I could do? I could turn down the music too. So, yeah. So I'll restate what I was saying. Just pretty much the music is garbage. It's trash. And I think it's all by design. And I'm not the only one who feels that way. I'm not the only one who thinks that the system is set up in this way to really usurp not only the hearts and minds of our particularly young and vulnerable people, but to really stave off, even rebellion. Some of those natural things that happen because the music talked about the times. It talked about some of the more urgent issues that you just don't really hear discussed in music today. Everything is about, money, bling, and even relationships, unhealthy relationships, and what that looks like. And that definitely brings down the vibration, meaning, music is made with vibration. You don't have sound without vibes, without vibration. And that when those vibrations are polluted and distorted, you're going to have that kind of response from the community. So I want to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about that after we take a look at this really brief clip. Oops, I'm not sharing. Hold on 1 second. You guys can see my screen?
Like a lot of our first videos, we used the environment. There was a young man named Gavin Cato who was killed in Brooklyn. And this kid was dragged up the street under the car. And they came and got the person who drove the car out and left the kid underneath the whip in front of his family's house. We gathered thousands of people out there. And then we filmed a video to mark the moment. So we weren't using it like, like Mantan time. We was going and saying, when people watch this video, they remember what happened here. So that's like where Trayvon Martin is, y'all, or whatever. Somebody do a video where this situation happened. And just don't start a little hoodie movement and then it die out. Where's the community security now? That stems from that. There are no movements that last now. And what we did at that time was make sure that movements last. When we came and linked our talents and showed up in the street doing videos.
I can't hear him, Tyler.
Power and all kind of different.
You can't hear him?
People were.
No, I can't hear him. I hear him talking, but I can't hear what he's saying.
Okay, hold on.
I can't make out what he's saying.
What that movement in,
Right, let me see if I can turn it up here.
They wanted to flush us out of the game completely.
That's Brother Jay with Chuck D in front of a school. Students talking about the relevancy of their music at the time. Let me, because I got it all the way up. Hold on.
This, that, and the other. Tell them what to do. Tell them what to buy. Let's make relationships. And that overrode what we had to say. I can't touch somebody. People that made music had their, they really didn't make it. Cats that played ball, they had their.
All right, I'm gonna put the link. I'm gonna put the link to it so people can check it out. I'm gonna stop sharing because that audio is up. It is probably a little bit difficult to hear, but I can just summarize, paraphrase what they're saying. Pretty much what I said in the beginning. That was Brother Jay, by the way, from a group called X Clan. It was the son of Sonny Carson, along with other members that made up this incredible group called X Clan. And that's Chuck D from one of my favorite groups called Public Enemy. Most people may remember Flavor Flav from Flavor of Love, which really started a whole lot of reality shows about, a lot of women vying for the affection of one person. He actually started that. Griff. Yep. Oh, yeah. And Professor Griff. And so many, and all the other members, Terminator X, the DJ. Really, really, really outstanding organization and group that are still doing music today. And people don't realize that they're doing music today because we don't control the radio stations, and we lost the stations. And whenever you want to attack a group, or you want to attack, if you look at the attacks even in countries, when you know, large countries attack other countries. When America attacks other countries, one of the first things they do is disrupt communications. And another thing that they do is destroy the economics of the country. So if you look at what has happened in our community as it relates to radio and black radio was very vibrant. This is how we got to know what was going on, who was organizing, where certain meetings were happening at so-and-so's church or this particular building, or something that was happening at a club where people were getting together and talking about things that were going on, and they can really come out and organize. That was destroyed. And how it was destroyed is by making black radio poor. Black radio was made poor by design, meaning that how radio traditionally was valued is through something called, Madison Avenue and advertising dollars. If you don't have advertisement, you don't have a radio station. And black stations, no matter what they would do in terms of changing their format, playing different music or whatever, they were sabotaged on the level of ratings so that they could not get the same amount of money, let's say a WFAN, a sports network would get, who would usually and typically have lower numbers but be making a heck of a whole lot more money. So black radio was constantly marginalized and discounted and even disrespected by Madison Avenue, which was the way in which they got their advertising dollars. And then most of the radio stations could not survive, and they went the way of the dodo. So fast forward today, now also another system change was something called program directors. Program directors would handle now the most regions, and this is why we are literally being programmed. The program directors, for example, can control, let's say, for example, a Steve Harvey, his radio program, is in many markets. He's talking in New York, LA, Chicago, all these different, and you're paying one person. However, before that, you had local markets and local market shares where there had to be a DJ from Chicago that people knew, that people saw, a personality that could really talk about what was happening in Chicago. It was more localized. For example, Steve Harvey or Kevin Hart can't talk to all the issues that's happening here in New York. So when you have program directors also agreeing to play the same 10 songs, that's why you're hearing the kind of music that you'll hear here in New York, Atlanta, on the West Coast, the same 10 artists. And there's plenty of artists, including Chuck D and some other artists that have music. So it's not the issue of is music, black music being created. It's about black music having a vehicle in which people can really have access and hear. So what you're hearing is what is being programmed to you, as opposed to, do you really like it? If you hear something 10 or 20 times, you start saying, okay, that's a nice beat, that's a nice groove, and like that. So I'm not really against, per se, myself, against censorship. I think, Cardi B, all these other artists should have a career, that have a super career. What I'm saying is that what is actually being censored is the voices of artists like Immortal Technique, other, what's this, I'm talking about Chuck D and a whole host of other artists that are, still doing really, really great music today. I'm gonna let you guys hear some music, and then we're gonna open up the microphones so we can hear from our panelists for today's question. Let me share that also on the screen and get that going so everybody can be clear on what we're talking about today on today's program. And let me know if you guys can see the screen, because my sharing, okay, here you should be able to see it, I think. I'm sharing now. What happened to black music? There's no more love music. R&B is dead. And let's go ask folks around the room, what do you suspect has happened to black music? Let me talk to the radio guy. Sonny, what has happened to black music? Are you there, Sonny? Did he fall asleep? Sonny, are you there? Sonny from 91.5 WNYE, are you there? I'm talking about radio and what happened to radio. Okay, if he's not there, let's go to Brother Pete. Brother Pete, what do you suspect has happened to black radio and black music?
We did not keep it. We did not keep it. Okay, that's the major part of the whole situation. Okay, I deal with artists. Okay, and I keep telling artists, keep your music. Okay, keep your portfolio, keep your music, keep your masters, everything that you've done, that's your creative genius. Do not let anybody else control it. We don't keep it. We still have that mentality that the white man's ice is colder than ours.
Yes, definitely controlling your masters are important. Controlling your art form. You know, for a lot of folks who create it, they don't really have the vehicle to get it out to the masses. You know, if you're selling it out of the trunk of your car, you're limited to wherever your car could go. Back in the day, you had black radio. You could send your music all out, and people all over the nation would be able to hear it.
But there's not an artist. We have to look at this. There's not an artist that we know of today that's famous that did not sell out of the trunk of their car.
Oh, well, there's a lot of artists that did not sell. You know, especially a lot of hip hop artists. They get put on, and the rest is history. Sparrow, you have your hand up.
I agree with Brother P. I was going to say we lost control over it. And another thing is social media gives us that platform now to allow us to get that control back. But I don't think we maximize it as completely, because I think the goal is initially is to get the following so you can still get picked up. The idea is to still get picked up by a major record label like Sony or something, or etc.
Yeah. I think too, this whole idea that if you you have really, really good music and talent, you just get it out, and the internet is this, what do you call that? It levels the playing field. I would really disagree, because we know about shadow banning that hinders the growth of really good music. All of a sudden, it's difficult to find music. The algorithm, search engine SEO, search engine optimization. When people are looking, say, "Hey, I heard of," let's say Sparrow. Sparrow has but then all these other artists come up, and people, the attention span of people are getting a lot shorter and shorter. No one's going to go to page 4 and 5 on their Google search to find that particular Sparrow who's doing this album or this song, this poem. And so you get lost, because being on the internet is like this huge yellow page. People still have to know what page you're on and where they can reach you. So although everybody have access to the internet, right, we still don't have access to those people, because now you have to have huge marketing dollars so that people can find that, wow, Sparrow exists and she has a new album.
Our biggest thing is that we let them in the door, okay? And they came in the door through platforms like AppScat. Y'all got it. My tongue always does that. AppScat and those platforms that, you have to submit you have to give away your control. Okay, those platforms that get paid for doing nothing, and you've done all the work. We have to stop that. Okay, we have to stop doing that. We have to. Sometimes it's best to you know that saying that the turtle wins the race. You know, he gets the chance to learn. He gets a chance to see everything that's surrounding him. Okay, but no, we have that mentality of wanting to get it overnight success. Okay, new artists. I tell new artists all the time, you're looking for success. If you're looking for success, then you're going to have 5 years of what you might think is failure. Okay, and they don't understand that.
Well, I think that's what makes the difference between, from an artistic standpoint, the successful artists, they're aware it's a journey, and they're aware it's a you have a plan, a well thought out plan, a marketing plan, and know how to adjust to to make sure your plan is like. Not a lot of artists knows how to adjust or change. Like, one of the biggest things for artists is actually their haters. Piss some people off with your stuff, because your haters are the biggest promoters. And I can tell you that from personal experience. I have this one person constantly, she stays stalking me. She's a hater. And she stayed posting my stuff everywhere because she hating on me. And then she does it to try to make it look like it's whack. Like, oh, this is whack. But people are like, yeah, this is whack, and they're sharing it. And then they're like, yeah, this is whack, and they're sharing it. Next thing you know, not everybody really thinks it's whack. If they really thought it was whack, they wouldn't share it. You get it? So I think the artists who think, who need a instant night success are the ones who are the reason why not everybody makes it, because you have to have a grounded mentality when you're approaching any career move, not just art, but especially in art, because it's a very highly competitive career.
Well, especially in the music field, because there are different aspects to your craft. Okay. I mean, there's artist development that you have to go through. You know, there's performance development that you have to go through. You know, there are different classes that you have to take, voice control. You know, these are the things that you should know as an artist. But most artists that are coming into the field don't want to do that. Okay. It's too much like work for them. All they want to do is grab the mic and start talking or start rapping, or half of them can't sing, you know, but let's not go there. But at the same token, you know, it's a school. It's like you're going from K to 12, okay? And they don't want to take that route. They want to come in the 12th grade instead of starting at kindergarten like they should.
And you're right. I think a lot of artists do need artist development. And I mean, and they don't get that anymore. You know, we used to have artist development departments. In my other life, I used to work for a major record company. I worked for a mini major, you can consider it. And then I eventually opened up my own label. And under my own label, I put out a compilation CD. And that was what I would do. I would actually put out a series of compilations. I did a compilation album called Over the Influence. And I also put out a compilation album called 4 Chicken Wings and Fried Rice. And my latest compilation, before I kind of really just like got into the film industry, was a tribute to Mumia Abu-Jamal, political prisoner, writer, activist, and it was called On the Move. And you should see it on the screen. I produced this entire album on Black Wax, which was the name of the label. And since then, all of the records and tracks and the music you hear belongs to Iron Metropolis. And I just want to play some of the songs because I think, and I want to get your feedback because, you know, there is this idea that the music that people are hearing represents Black excellence. And I call cap on that. I think the majority of music that people are listening to today is mediocre at best. Let me say it again. The majority of stuff, I don't care if you're a fan of Taylor Swift, and I don't care who you're a fan of, they're average at best. And that's me being very, very generous. I have artists here like Maya Azucena, who participated on here, Public Enemy, Spirit Child, Stephanie Rice, who else we see on here? Reese, Yao, Abiodun Oyewole from the Last Poets participated on this album. Immortal Technique. So I'm gonna play just little snippets of it. I want to get our family and friends' feedback on it, and then this, keep in mind, this was done almost 10 years ago, and when you talk about classics and relevancy, you know, I'll let you decide. We'll pick. Let's check out the Public Enemy track, right?
Definitely.
Why should we be in such desperate haste to succeed?
Can you hear it? Give me a thumbs up.
Desperate enterprise.
All my people. Do you know what it means to have a revolution? And what it takes to make a solution? Still fighting against oppression. Oh yeah, we're battling our depression. Oh yeah, whoa. Oh
yeah. Now we was raised in these streets on pork and poison meat. I recognize the beast, spare the mark of the gold teeth. Puff on the road, leafing and busting these police. Where y'all players are faking bacon, we cook the whole beef. I put it down plain, I stimulate that left and right brain, baby. Cell by cell and frame by frame. Names, dates, it's all in material. We big dick, sick rhyme killers like cereal. I burn like venereal, I spit that imperial wizardry. Climb right through the circuitry and choke your team for their cream. Now that's as far as we go. Drop shit like seagulls and smash your little ego. Got vision like Stevie and Coleco, giving 2,000 live people one late show with no sequel. No equal in the flesh. I've been through more evil than men do. I'm nasty off the head and with the pen too.
I'm pissed. Easy to rhyme on tracks like this. More things change, the more they remain the same. These games, them videos playing on the brink of insane. Must be a hockey rink lost up in their drink. In pursuit of plain Jane, I think, man, they think a revolution be pretty and pink, man. Now in these new tracks, some of these cats don't know how to act. All them criminal acts ain't got nothing to do with rap. One hand cuffed behind them backs in black. Quiet riot. Y'all can't hear one hand clap. Revolution is more than what you hear and what you see. The mass reintroduction of society to society. Together we got 100 years of sobriety. These clones will be flipping like new phones, be surprising me. Turned out, they happy just to be in the house. So I'ma call them out. You know I ain't no church mouse. Love out. The revolution rocks on. The revolution rocks on.
Do you know what it means to have a revolution?
Do you know what it means to have a revolution? So what's your thoughts, your feedback on that? Oh, shoot. Can you guys unmute? Yeah, you should be able to unmute.
I'm sorry. No, Tyler, sorry I had difficulty. No, listen, brother, that was straight fire, as we say. That was straight fire there, brother. You know, those powerful voices you had on there were, that was a brilliant, what is the word I'm thinking of? Assembling, you know, you assembling them, brother. That was a ensemble cast, if you would.
Was that Chuck?
Yes, that's Chuck D.
It certainly was.
The artist, Public Enemy.
I thought I heard Professor Griff on there too. Was that Professor Griff I heard at the beginning?
No, that was that Jay.
Oh, okay.
So
you sound like Griff.
And here's another one. I'm just playing snippets and
waves crashing all around me, stormy waters trying to drown me. Take me under, far away from my home. No refuge as far as I can see. Can't swim to safety. I'm afloat on the unknown, and I'm no longer blind. I can see just fine. I know where I'm going and what I have to do. Even though it's like poison, they will never silence me, 'cause I have no faith as long as the truth is here. Even though it's like poison,
So yeah, this is music that, you know, and that's Stephanie Wright. She's a Grammy Award winning artist. She played on, did a lot of plays, and it's a really phenomenal artist to kind of really work with. Let me play another quick rap. I'm just playing snippets. I'm not playing the whole song. If guys want to hear the whole song, just let me know, and I'll try to figure out a way to, you know, get this music to you. This one of my favorites. It's called Buck Pigs by Khalil Khan. To me, one of the hardest anti-police tracks I've ever heard.
Never forget, never forget, never forget. You don't shoot one of us and then grin in our face. You don't shoot one of us and then shake our hands and think we forget it. No, we never forget. We'll never forget. Someone has to pay. Somewhere, somehow, someone has to pay. When a snake bites your jaw, you don't go and look for the snake that has blood on his jaw. Any old snake will do.
B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. I get sick of all these cavemen hopping out of cars, slamming off to the pavement, leaving us with scars. Detect us, set us up, have us trapped behind bars. When the overseer come, we running like track stars, but there's no need to run, cause cops ain't the only ones with guns. Nah, this ain't no run, brother. Run is more like the sound when Armageddon come. Brothers and sisters, better hang on to your guns. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. I made Jake do the Harlem Shake. Ice pick to his shoulder, a brick to his face. Grab that little pig, that's what he's doing in this place. This ain't Tottenville, this is Park Hill for real. Pigs better guard they grill. I get sick of all these little pigs trying to jump out. I ain't did a thing, so why the hell you got your gun out? I'd be wrong if I took a bat and knocked your lungs out. I ain't selling crack and junk, I got a real job. B-U-C-K-P-I-G-S. You can say it best with the S-K-S. B-U-C-K.
We had to change it to B-U-C-K because I said this is going out pretty much. We're trying to get mainstream, so he came back to the studio and changed it to from the F to B. So Buck Pigs, but yeah, it's really just some really great stuff. We have Maya, I Live On, she did a really great guitar solo piece. It would bring tears to your eyes.
For my turn, so long I've been waiting, makes me burn. What could I do in the face of such a ruse? Oh, what could I do in the face of such a fool? Oh yes, that was me in my mirror. Trying to face the facts. I've gone somewhere and I'll never get back. Oh, let me tell you what I'm doing. See, I'm okay. I've been pushing through it. So I must choose to live on. My soul carries this song.
And, you know, listening to this music, you know, can we just imagine for a moment what kind of world we live in if not just these artists, but artists that put out music, you know, on this caliber and like what our reality would be like, what our lives would be like, what the world would be like, and how possible and real, revolution would be if it constantly we heard songs that edified us, things that were like, beautiful and revolutionary at the same time.
If we could do that, Colin, then we would not need the revolution would not be needed.
Exactly. Well, that would be a revolution. Like, I think internally with music and vibrations would change the mindset so that people can start realizing that we don't have to live like the way we're living today. I mean, we're living right now where, trains are running off the track. We can't go outside because of the smoke. You can't tell me that's not because of capitalism. Somebody trying to save money or doing something. It's corruption, and at its root, no matter how you try to slice it, what we're living with today. So,
but we also have to understand that the attack on music is not something new. Okay, this is something that has been going on for a long time. I mean, you can go back as far as Billie Holiday. Strange Fruit. When right. they tried to stifle that and make sure that she didn't sing that, and she was arrested for doing so. Right. Okay, James Brown's Black and I'm Proud. They really tried to step on that, but couldn't do it. Okay, we need to understand that there's messages in the music.
That's right.
Okay? We need to look at those messages. And we need to pay attention to the music that we listen to, especially from some of our famous artists, okay? Like Prince, for example. I mean, how many of us have sat down and really listened to Prince's colonized mind?
Today's his birthday.
Okay. Okay. How many of us really understood the message in Michael Jackson's "They Don't Really Care About Us"? So I mean, we music has a message to it. It's our, let's say it's our African drum. It's our drum, and we need to understand that, and we need to take our music back. Really, just take it back.
Deshaun, you wanted to say something?
Yes. When I was supporting the news, I mentioned a former professor of mine, Professor Dr. Yusuf Ali. For years, he taught at Rutgers, but by the time I got to him in 1998, he was at William Patterson University as I was finishing undergrad. But just to let you know, he taught, and I said this earlier, musicology and ethnomusicology. He's the one who introduced me to both. Of course, anytime you see the word ethno, that prefix, that usually means Negroes. But anyway, he taught Sister Soldier, he taught Kevin Powell. There were so many notables that he taught while he was at Rutgers. But he introduced us, his students, to, once again, musicology, the study of music, but not just the study of music, but the study of the effects on music. Then, of course, ethnomusicology applies to us. And he mentioned that if you want to study the thinking of a people, listen to the music that they listen to, or observe the music that they listen to. Okay, and you see what was taken. We definitely saw that in the 1960s during the Black Power and Civil Rights era. Brother Pete mentioned I'm Black and I'm Proud, but of course, and before that, before the Black Power era, like right before that, we had, Brother Pete mentioned our sister Billie Holiday when she sang that song "Strange Fruit." Okay, so. But you begin seeing Black people en masse in the 1960s, in particular, using our music, using our voice, using music to bring attention to what was taking place at the times regarding us. That's why you had the Temptations with Ball of Confusion, and you had Edwin Starr with his song "War." These are just many examples. But if you want to,
you also had people like the Last Poets.
The Last Poets, which was the first, which could arguably be referred to as the first rap group. Right. They were, in my judgment, they were the first rap group. Niggas are scared.
I'm gonna disagree with you a little bit. I'm gonna go with James Brown.
No, listen what I said, Pete. I didn't say the first rappers. I said the first rap group. James Brown could be called the first rapper. He can be called the first rapper, dear brother. He can be accused. I wouldn't give him that because there were other, I think he was the first one to be popular, but remember, Brother Pete, we had in the church the black ministers who had music playing in the background, and they would say a little
Gil Scott and the rest of them, yeah.
Right, ministers. But, you know, like I said, but Pete, like, you know, I would have to partially agree with you with that. But my point is, if you want to study, once again, I'm going to reiterate for our audience, if you want to know what a community of people are thinking, listen to their music. It was no accident that in 1993 that The Chronic came. And The Chronic had came out, that album, you know, and I love, you know, Dr. Dre and Snoop. But that album came out when I was 15 going on 16 in 1993. And when that came out, that's, in my judgment, was the beginning of the end of positive rap. And that was on purpose. You know, that was on, you know, that was on purpose. You know, there was a documentary, I forgot the name of the documentary, that said that white corporations, this documentary came out in 2001 or 2002. No, it was 2001 or 2000, saying that white corporations like General Electric had saw black rappers as a threat because of how they were picking up the people, when they said, no, we got to take this over. And I wrote an article some time ago that ironically I was just discussing last night. I wrote an article around the time when I first met Brother Pete in 2006, when I first moved to Washington, D.C. It was called Hip Hop, the Messianic Culture. And I was explaining hip hop and rap music influence, and also, you know, but how black music period, how powerful it is.
Okay, so I think I found something that I think you guys will appreciate. A really, really early rap group going all the way back to the 40s. That's right, you heard me right. I'm saying the 40s. Check this out.
Well, it's over and over. Oh, oh no, oh no, I'm gonna ride on the winning time, but it's over and over. Oh, oh no, oh no, I'm gonna ride on the winning time. Brother Noah, my God's talking, said he would ride on the wind and tide. Hey, children, stop still and listen to me. God walked down to the brandy sea. He declared that he was the son of man, and then he decided to destroy the land. He spoke to Noah. Noah stopped. He said, Noah, I want you to build me an ark. I want you to build it 3 cubits long, big and strong. I want it 30 high and 50 wide, so it will stand the wind and tide. It's oh Noah, oh Noah. Oh no, I got to go to ride on the winning tide, but it's a oh no, oh no, oh no, I got to go to ride on the winning tide. Got to go to ride on the winning tide. Got to go to ride on the winning tide. Oh Noah, brother Noah, my God's talking, said he would ride on the wind and tide. Well, after the foundation was laid, then Noah began to hew and build. The ringing of the hammer cried judgment, the hewing of the saw cried sin and repent. 100 years he hammered and sawed, building the ark by the grace of God. When the ark was done, God's voice was heard. He said, now Noah, let me tell you what to do.
Well, I thought I would blow some minds, push back some wigs a little bit on Facebook and other places. Even how they had the cipher circle and the guys moving back and the musical chorus, and this was done in the 40s, 1946.
You know what that brings to mind, though, Tyler?
Yeah.
That we have to go all the way back to the sanction of music, okay? Yeah. Because they sanctioned or stifled our music on the plantation.
Absolutely.
Okay? We wasn't allowed to sing certain songs on the plantation. And the songs we were allowed to sing had to be approved by the so-called, I ain't even going to use the word, you know.
Them people. Yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of truths that are hidden, a lot of gems that are hidden. I had to dig through the crates to get that, but oh wow, I mean the Jubilaries, and you can look them up on Google. 1946, you talk about the flows and the raps and the musical chorus. I'm telling you, we're some really brilliant and phenomenal people, and the proof is here. Although they don't write about it and talk about it, and people are selective when they want to start where something began and all that other kind of stuff. One thing, this is what I love about having technology today with regard to like being able to record and document and offer up proof of certain things. I think that's important. And speaking of having the ability to offer up, what do you call that, proof of something, check this out.
At that time, they would call black music race music when I sung rock and roll. I was on RCA Victor before Elvis Presley, but they wouldn't put me on RCA. They put me on.
Hold on, this is.
That's right. Play that, dear brother. Play that. That's right.
Didn't share it properly. Hold on.
And sing, but when I went as a just straight dude, they wouldn't let me sing. They thought I wanted. At that time, they would call black music race music when I sung rock and roll. I was on RCA Victor before Elvis Presley, but they wouldn't put me on RCA. They put me on Camden. So when I would wear makeup, they would let me sing for the white girls. When I would put on eyelashes and all that, they would let me sing. But when I went as a just straight dude, they wouldn't let me sing. They thought I wanted the girls. So if I came out a straight guy, they wouldn't let me sing. But when I came out with all the makeup on and all the eyelashes and all the hair, they said, Richard is a good boy. I never was a good man, but I was a good boy.
Who's they that you're talking about here?
Some of the whites in Macon, where I'm from, I came from a little town. You know, it was real prejudice back in that time. There was a lot of people that would love to have been flamboyant, you know, just like Kiss and Jimi Hendrix, which was my guitar player. He started out with me. Billy Preston, James Brown was my vocalist. Otis Redding, Beatles came with me. They started with me. Mick Jagger. All these people started with me.
So you really did have a dramatic impact and a great deal of influence on what would later become the mainstays of rock and roll music.
I was the architect.
Woo! And I'll leave that right there. I mean, you talk about
that's why he was
some of these things. He was the architect of rock and roll, and people refer to rock and roll. See, so that's what I mean by the Jubilees. You hear this, you get a better picture of what is happening with music and
that's right.
The story. I mean,
but you know what the ironic part is about it, Tyler?
Right.
If you show that clip to certain people today, they wouldn't even know who that was because of the way he's dressed and the way he's made up.
Well, that was Little Richard for those.
They don't know. We know that, but I'm saying.
Well, I'm telling to the folks who don't know who are watching the show. I know you know. We're a smart group here, but for folks who are watching this, artist named Little Richard, who did not even reach the pinnacle of even a Mick Jagger or really James Brown for that matter, but what he's spitting is fact. It's documented, so it's not just hyperbole. It's not just him kind of like patting himself on the back, which he should, because he really did. He really was the architect, the designer of what we call rock and roll. There would not be an Elvis Presley without, you know. So and I would say 99.9% of the other artists had it not been for Little Richard and a lot of folks.
Or Chuck Berry. Let's share the stage there.
And then when you talk about like guitarists and you talk about female artists, let me try to see if I can get this up for a second. All right, I got it. So let me just share my screen real quick. Play a little bit of her music. And I got to really give her a huge shout out, take my hat off on, I mean, talking about the architects, the legends, the unsung heroes of the people who have kind of borrowed their music. And if I was to talk about hip hop, I mean, there is a lot of, matter of fact, there's a story. I don't know if folks know about this, about just do your research on how Biggie Smalls literally stole the music, the song, the style, the swag of another artist. So that's a story that's floating around, and people are now substantiating.
What artist? What
we're gonna get that up, but let me just play this. While this is playing, I'll go look that story up. But let's do one at a time. This is Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Check it out.
Oh, the guitar. Go ahead, brother.
Oh yeah, this is some. We're gonna
Sister
have
Rosetta.
fun. That's
Sister
right.
Rosetta.
All the sweethearts see. Oh, this is the wonderful time of my life. Oh, let me tell you something. Uncle Joe, it's raining and the people are so fine to stay around. And how great it is. Oh, it makes me feel happy. Just to know we can start in the rain and sing. And the people are so sweet to stay here. And I come in on let me tell you what I come in on. Oh yeah! Get the key. Didn't it rain, children? Rain, oh yes. Didn't it? Yes, didn't it? You know it did, didn't it? Oh, yes, how it rained. I said it rained, children. Rain, oh yes. Didn't it? Yes, didn't it? You know it did, or didn't it? Oh my Lord, how it rained. 40 days, rain 40 nights, to make my garment fit me right. When I get to heaven, gonna put on my robe, walk around in glory, tell the glad news. Look up David in the heat of the day, tune up a harp and begin to play. I know it rain, you know it rain. Oh, how it rain, rain too long, all night long. Rain, 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 rain. Didn't it rain, children? Rain, oh yes. Didn't it, yes. Didn't it, you know it did, or didn't it? Oh my Lord, how it rained. Some crying, Brother Noah, can't you take on more? But no cried out, my friends. The angels got the key and you can't get in. I know it rain, you know it rain. Rain too long, all night long. Rain all day, rain all night. Rain, 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 rain. Rain, 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 rain. Rain, children. Rain, oh yes. Didn't it, yes. Didn't it, you know it did, or didn't it? Oh my Lord.
Yeah, didn't it rain? I mean, this just phenomenal music. I mean, even to today, you'll hear the same cadence, the same musical attack, the transitions. You'll see echoed in some of the music, of today. And it's important for us to know the roots of a lot of this music and where it comes from. So I did a little research. There is a YouTube that I have to get up that says Mississippi rapper says Biggie stole his song. Mississippi rapper says Biggie stole the entire style. He took his name and his style. So let me go to YouTube and get that up, but I was on this computer, so.
Tyler said it took his name, but I always thought if that be the case, I'm wondering if that brother claiming that can also be sued because Biggie Small came from the Calvin Lockhart character in Let's Do It Again, 1974.
Well, the guy's name wasn't.
He said he took his name.
Wow, did Biggie Small take? Just let's check this out. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know you're gonna get your investigative journalist hat on.
Definitely.
We'll take a look at this. Hold on. I have the title of the YouTube thing. It says, wow. All right. Did Biggie Smalls take... I get it right? Yeah, he called himself Big Daddy.
Even when they kill me, they can never take the game from a young G. Took a long time, and I'm living up. G Notorious B1, Mr. Big Daddy. I'm blowing up like you thought I would. Call a crib, same number, same hood. It's all good.
Yo, YouTube, what up? It's your homie Gab. I'm in the building. Right. Big shout outs to my homeboy, The Art of Dialogue. Posted on his Instagram page. Did Biggie Smalls, a.k.a. the Notorious B.I.G., steal his name and his song from this guy, a rapper out of Memphis, Tennessee? And, you know, Up gave me the whole backstory. He was telling me that he saw it on Twitter. It didn't have much traction. He posted it. Now the story's caught on like wildfire. And yes, he requested that his main man Gab do a video on it. So here it is. Now this is not uncommon practice, but it can't get no more blatant than this. Now I remember when Biggie first hit the scene, he wanted to use the name Biggie Smalls, but some type of copyright wouldn't allow him to use that. I don't know if it was him or was it P. Diddy, but somebody came up with the name The Notorious B.I.G. at the last moment, and that's what they ran with. But to me, this whole situation got Sean P. Diddy Combs written all over it. I mean, let's be honest. Okay, the sample of this song in question here is from a group called Mfume. The song is titled Juicy Fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this rapper here, the Notorious Big One, he sampled Juicy Fruit and he rapped to it. And it's just one hell of a coincidence that his name is the Notorious Big One. And then Puffy gets Biggie. Biggie's first mainstream single is Juicy, same beat, with his new name, the Notorious B.I.G. One hell of a coincidence. Now, the report has it that this rapper out of Memphis was signed to a smaller label named Dragon Records back in the early 1990s. He was trying to promote his demo, or should I say his album, for distribution, and yes, it was passed around the industry. It was in the hands of a lot of people. But it looked like Puffy got him. Oh yeah. It definitely looked like Puffy clipped him on this one. This is plagiarism at its finest. This is not just biting. This was straight up jacking somebody's whole fucking name, the concept of that song. It even had the same style to it. His voice, oddly enough, even sounds like Biggie's. I mean, I know a lot of the Biggie fans are going to be upset over this one, but hey, don't get mad at me. You need to holler at Brother Love and see what the fuck was really going on. But yo, this is just one artist that, you know, the industry has stumbled upon. How many other people did they jack along the way? You heard Tupac say his whole album sound like what Biggie copied. He said he had to change his whole album because Biggie had damn near took the idea of his whole album and ran with it. So, his pocket's crazy. It can go too. This is now they're making a lot there, but can't you their rhymes they want. Assume identical. It ain't nobody found. But you know what they say was done in the dark. It's funny. Somehow Daddy, concept, same sample concept. I mean, it was almost a case of identity theft. Let me stop. I know some of y'all gonna be.
Men do not.
When a nigga don't pay, and that's what it's all about, kid. You gotta go down for yours, and that's exactly what I did. It took a long time, but now I'm living back. G Notorious.
1, 2.
Mr. Big Bag. Here comes the man. When a nigga don't pay, and that's what it's all about.
That's pretty close.
Well, I would like to know, but Tomlin,
that ain't like close. That shit is on top.
Yeah, that's what I was being facetious. I mean, funny, but yeah,
that's layers.
Yeah,
that's layers.
Mm-hmm.
What I would like to know is that first, how did Biggie? Let's just say, if Biggie did steal that, who gave him the words to this, you know, to this one's rap? You understand where I'm coming from? Who gave him the words to that? Like what year? I don't understand. In other words, he's saying he stole. He's saying that Biggie stole it from him.
Right.
What I'm asking you is, how did Biggie get access to the lyrics?
No, he didn't. It wasn't the lyric. It was like the flow, the music, the look, the feel. I think there's different lyrics. They did a little quick comparison. It wasn't, but
this brings me to my next thing. You do realize that James and Tume, the three. You know, we just spoke about one artist, but the three top sampled artists in music history are James Brown, Parliament Funkadelic, or George Clinton, and James Ntume.
Right.
Okay, so we have to ask ourselves the question: how many people were using Brother Ntume's Juicy at that time? Juicy Fruit, pardon me.
But even if he copied, they used the sample of Juicy Fruit. That was the same flow, you know, like his lyrics, and it was like the very same exact flow to that rhythm. So, and then not only that, the Notorious Big One, and then the Notorious Big.
Okay, but
like
Tyler,
1 year later, that's like three. One thing. Let's say if they both use the same Mtume song, that's one thing, right? Okay, I would say that's nothing. Anybody could sample anything, but then that flow, and then the name, and I'm like, okay,
here's the thing, brother. Well, Tyler, hold on, brother. Here's the thing, brother. Here's where the investigative comes in. Okay. One, I'm going to ask this again. Okay, the flow. We have to determine if Biggie got hold of those lyrics. You understand where I'm coming from? Because right now it's just coincidence or conjecture. You understand where I'm coming from? Like, how did he get access to that flow? Like, did he ever meet him? Number one. Okay, because I didn't hear that in the video. The two ever meet. Okay, keep in mind both of them were already fat. Pardon my expression, already heavy set, but also right now, Tylen. The thing that keeps coming up, okay, so far there are well over 20 stories that have just popped up in Google, but I remember when it happened. Remember, Biggie comes out in 1994, you know, with that album, and I believe he had changed his name by 1996. He had to change it because, remember, Calvin, it turned out that Calvin Lockhart, like I said, remember he played the character, I said 1974, it was 1975. with
Biggie Small,
right, with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. Okay, remember Calvin had played one of the villains. That was his name, Biggie Smalls. Hiawatha Biggie Smalls. Okay, and so we have it now. It's documented, Tylen, from what I'm reading. It's documented that he sued. That he had sued him, and that was at that point where he called himself Notorious B.I.G. There's nothing else that I've seen besides this video. Okay, I'm going through documents here, dear brother. I've not seen anything else except that video that would say that, like I said, you know, that Biggie stole from this brother. Like I said, you know, we have to compare notes. Is that right? I hear the flow, this, that, and the third, but at the same time, we have to determine. Okay, and I'm thinking like an attorney now, which I'm not, but I'm thinking like a journalist and an attorney. You have to determine if he did steal. At what point somebody had to, if he's copying his flow, someone had to slip him the lyrics. When did he have access to that rapper to be able to, to copy his flow?
Well, you know, being in the industry, I can see how things happen. Like Biggie, for example, would not necessarily have to know the notorious Big One, because there are a lot of influences that happen in the studio. Producers, the producer might have known about that Mississippi artist, right? The writer might have. There's so many the arranger, even some of his handlers that say, "Hey, I got this idea. I saw this kid do X, Y, and Z." There's a lot of access points to influence the more, I guess, relevant and larger than life. No pun intended. The big pun, right? No pun intended. But you know that they could have told Notorious B.I.G. about this style without him even knowing about this Mississippi. So I'm not saying that, and I wouldn't say that the Notorious Big knew that he was doing it. It's a machine that somebody knew something, because the likely odds that somebody would not only use the M2May kind of track, and then to have that flow, that's like, it's kind of like a blueprint. It's like, that to me is damning. And then on top of that, the name, he was called the Notorious Big One, the B1 or whatever. But
he did say Puff was written all over it. He did say Puff was, he said Puff written all over it.
Right. Puff had a formula, and his formula was not really getting the top shelf. He just wanted artists he could control. A lot of people brought that up in terms of the way that he managed his company and manages his company, so that he has a lot of artistic control, right out of the playbook of Clive Davis, which was a mentor to, and some people suggest even more, to Sean Combs. So when I'm so there's a lot of ways that this could have happened. I don't know, but just looking at what it looked like, to me, the odds would have to be like 1 in a chagillion to say that, wow, this guy has a similar name. You can get past that. Yeah, okay, guy's big, but so many things you're going to use with big in it, all right? And then, okay, M2May, that's not anything. But when you hear, the flow, I'm like, uh-oh. You're in trouble for that one, because he could have flowed very differently to that same track, to that same drill. Well, let's hear from other people. What did you think, Pete?
When I heard what you just played, the only thing came to my mind was lawsuit all over it.
Yep.
Lawsuit was written all over it. Okay. Not only that, but if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Biggie known for sampling a lot of people?
Yeah. His whole company.
He didn't have his own original beats that he would sample other people's beats.
Right. They stayed in court. I mean, there was a matter of fact, an album couldn't be released because it was released. I mean, that was like a notorious practice. By all artists. It was. I mean, one of my favorite groups. What's this? They did Plug 1, Plug 2. They just were able to re-release their album because it literally spent decades in court fighting over, samples, because that's what people would do. We would just sample stuff and do all the paperwork later, because the idea and the thinking was by that time you're popular, you've made a lot of money, and you can go to court and settle. And then people would say, you know what, I want it all, and that's why you get the lengthy litigation. I was in part of a litigation with Feel the Rhythm of My House. I mean, it's Whitney Houston, and it was a settlement out of court. She used it for the VMA Awards. My Whole Voice, Feel the Rhythm of My House, one of the songs that they just, and it came out, and then did it, and then so our company called their company. You know, they do a cease and desist, and then they follow it with some paperwork, and then 2 lawyers work it out, and that's typically what happens. But sometimes you have people who hold out, and they, like I said, they want it all, and that's when you get the long fight. You know, but people sample all the time. Matter of fact, technology like the ASR 10, they made it easy to sample. They encourage sampling when in that technological age of, you know, New Jack Swing, house music, club music, people just sampled. And if you listen to the record I did, the Feel the Rhythm, I had a lot of samples in it, and you know, we talked to people, and a lot of these companies knew each other, and it's like, you know, how much you want for that. And some people didn't mind. Some people thought it was flattering early on when you sample their music, especially if they were like a mid-range artist. You know, when I say mid-range, meaning they weren't super popular, they weren't like neophytes, people just coming out the gate, but people looked at that as a form, and to a certain extent I did too. I was at First Flat. I said, oh, Whitney Houston used it?
Yeah.
You sure you want to? You sure you want to go after her? You know, I'm flattered.
When you played that clip, the only thing came to my mind was Pigmeat Malcolm's "Here Come the Judge."
Here come the judge. Here come the judge.
That's right.
Yeah, sampling was and still is, you know. And there was recently, I don't know if you guys were aware of it, Ed Sheeran was sued by the estate of Marvin Gaye for "Let's Get It On." And
and don't forget Robin Thicke. I mean, Robin Thicke, he got sued by Marvin's people for for Marvin's and I love that song too. You know,
Sexual Healing.
No.
Oh, Let's Get It On.
No, the fast song, brother, the disco song that Marvin did.
Dancing. Got to give it up.
Got to give it up.
Got to give it. Oh,
he sued. They sued him for that because he sampled it. And me being a Marvin Gaye fan, as soon as Robin came out with that, I recognized it right away. So it's got to give it up.
Yeah, but there's a lot of people that's being sampled that we know nothing about too.
That too, Brother Pete. That too. You gotta listen to an old song.
That part.
Wait a minute. They did that? That's happened many times.
Yeah, a lot of people are sampling stuff that, you know, Jay Dilla. Okay, we're not paying attention to Jay Dilla. Okay, his music is out there. People have taken his music and used his music for a lot of different things, for a lot of different projects. You know, Digital Underground is another. You know, so we gotta pay, you know, pay attention.
I mean, most of the hip hop that came, I mean, after the, you know, you had the 808. These were like machines, sampling machines. They called them. They were sampling machines. ASR 10 with the keyboard. That was my tool to trade. There's so many instruments that came out that, you know, encouraged, you know, samples, and people would do a lot to mask the samples. And there was a show, I think, I don't think it was on the internet back in the time when AOL, where people had to guess the sample and figure out what samples were used in, you know, hit songs. And so
cut out the voice.
Yeah, you know, so, and then they would slow down the sample, they would truncate the sample and digitize it and try to mask it, and people had to find out where did they get that particular loop from, and that was part of the creative genius and process. And you know, once capitalism and once,
but ain't that where the 7-second law came in, and the 7-second rule?
Well, you know, there's people who've been sued successfully that it's not even a second. If you use something, it's about what's really, at the end of the day, recognizable. If something is so recognizable, I can use a hee hee. That's like a second. Everybody go, that's Michael. And I'm sued. know what I'm saying? I say, but it's the 7-second rule. They don't care. That's definitely Michael. That's his voice. Pay me. You know, and
but
so
there is a 7-second rule that you can
yeah,
use.
there is, but you know how these laws are. These laws are, and I'm not an attorney, but I've been in situations. Let's say it. I've been in court enough to know that at the end of the day, you never really know where these judges, if you say you're a judge, or the jury will decide on, you know, a certain matter. And then there's also, you know, judges are real weird. They're like, how should I say? They kind of guide the jury. They try to, you know, so it could be a setup. You can go in and be like this, that, and the other, but if the judge is not feeling you and the situation.
And don't be an artist that the judge's daughter like.
Exactly. Something probably. Yeah, so it's a lot of that. And it's a lot of appeals, and it's to me, it's the ugly part of the entertainment industry. You know, I definitely think that if people use people's music, they need to acknowledge, and we just need to acknowledge anyway, like whose shoulders we stand on. Yeah, just exactly say, hey, you know, I'm using this, you know, it's all right. And most artists don't care. But I'm going to tell you this, even if the artist, like I told you the situation with Feel the Rhythm of My House, a song I did with Strictly Rhythm Records. Matter of fact, it was the first record on Strictly Rhythm, and Whitney Houston. I was flattered. I was like, please don't sue it. Don't put my name on it. You know, I don't, you know, I took it as but there are other interests, you know, publishers, ASCAP, agents, the record company that will say, you know, I don't care how you feel about it. That's your feelings, but this is business, Tylon. And that's what I was told, that, you know, I know how you feel about it, and then we can appreciate that, but, you know, we're partners in this, because that's what happens when you sign up to a record company and they give you in advance that you have to pay back that, you know, whether you want to be like, oh, that's cool, I want her to use it, and it's not really personal for a lot of artists when it's a lawsuit involved. It's about, like with the estate of Marvin Gaye. I don't think it's anything personal against Ed Sheeran. They're looking at the dollars and cents from the company that represents him, and it should have acknowledged him and should have known better. But they didn't win. But it doesn't mean that they won't appeal. And that happens too. Sometimes people got that fight in them, and they, oh, no, we're going to go. And then you go to another, and these things just kind of keep on going. I know people who have been in court, like I said, for decades. I mean, just the De La Soul album just got re-released, like about a month ago. Look it up, because it was all in, you know, litigation tied up for decades. People will say, okay, they win in one arena, then they lose in another arena, then they appeal. And I have money on the street, meaning I have cases that I've won and I still haven't collected. Because that's another thing. You go through the court process, these companies, they change, you know, and then some of them go out of business. And it's like, good luck in trying to find out where your money is. So the music business is, so
what's our solution? What solutions do we have? What do we do to
independent? I tell everyone, you do not need the middleman today. You can literally from your home produce music, right? You could market your music. You can use the internet to a certain extent, right? And then you could do some really clever things to put yourself out there and keep all the money, instead of giving this person 8%, another person 20%, another person 15%, another person points. By the time you get the money, that's why it's very possible for TLC to have a #1 record go triple platinum and be broke. It's possible because when you have all these hands, you know, writers, and everybody's getting percentages and points, and then you get your check, you say, wait, I sold millions and I got a few $1,000s. You know, it's possible. It depends on your approach towards business. So my solution is to be as independent. Don't be afraid. I go back to my mentor, what he says, it's like a blueprint for everything. You can apply it to anything. And it's start where you are, use what you have, do what you can, and the important thing is know that you are enough. Stop thinking that you need other things or other people or this white savior mentality. Somebody's going to come and they're going to see me and recognize, and they're going to give me a whole lot of money. I'm going to have a Bentley's. I'm going to live on. All that stuff is television. That's not reality.
Motown.
Right.
And study Motown.
Right. You got to, and then also develop models. I try to tell folks who are listening and interested in getting in the entertainment business and the music business, develop models that are sustainable. Stop putting all of your eggs in one basket. Stop thinking that you're going to have this one record and it's going to be a hit and everybody's going to know your name and you're going to get discovered. You're going to be, and that's why I hate those shows. These shows are really producing this kind of mindset of, instant success. I started out and so and then I was just playing and someone heard me and there's a record exec and they took me out to dinner and now look at me. It's people have been working years and years and dedicated to their craft and that's what you need to do. You need to be really dedicated. I'm not one. There's different philosophies, but I'm for you being all in terms of your career, but develop models that are sustainable, that is not dependent on one song or one revenue stream from music.
Yeah. And believe it or not, the song you don't like that you did this, but you don't like it, that's the one that's going to end up being your number one hit.
I got to tell you, that's my story when I went to a certain record company, and I had a demo. Back then, you had demo cassettes. I had a cassette, and I was sitting with a certain prominent A&R person, and they gave me a lot of time. They went through the whole cassette, and they was like, I like what you're doing. Experiment. Hey, you got anything else? And at that point, I was like, okay, they just really just yanking my chain. I said, well, I got one song on the other side, which was just the B-side. They put it in, and they went nuts. Oh, that's it. And they went crazy, and the rest is history. So, you never know. You just never know if you want, have a lot of tools. And that's why I said develop a sustainable model, meaning have a lot of songs, have a lot of, develop a lot of revenue streams with regard to shows, performance. Take that serious because that's a great way to make money and pay your bills, performances, acting. So look at yourself. You know how they talk about these 360 deals? You become the 360 deal to yourself. Yeah. Develop all of these different ways that you can monetize. And don't be afraid to go into the subways or on a corner to perform. You will make so much money. I know people who are street performers who are, who perform in these subways, and you will be surprised at the money that they make. Just people giving donations because they appreciate the music, and people who buy their CDs that are downloads right there on the spot. So if you have talent, you are the commodity, and you should set up a model once again that is that puts you first. And not have so many. But yeah, I look at the time. This was a great conversation for black music. I think next week we're going to talk a little bit more about jazz and poetry. Hopefully Lydia will be there. Maybe she'll do a poem. But we're going to dedicate this entire month on the Colored Only Cafe to black music. And I know we had an after party schedule, but I can't do it. I'm like wiped out. I can't do it. Usually we do an after party, and then we're going to talk about reparations. We're going to have to do that next week. Unless, I can make someone, I'll end the show, I'll make someone the host, and if you guys want to do it. But I'm done. I had a big full day talking to a lot of folks. My film may be... well, I don't want to talk about it. I got some really good news, hopefully, to talk about hopefully next week or the week after wants to rubber meets the road on some deals. But we're taking things to the next level. For folks who don't know, you can go to my page, I Am Metropolis. We got 2 awards over at Cannes. Big shout out to Sheila, she's still here. Yes, she's here. Who went to Cannes
I wanted to hear
Film
what you
Festival.
had to say about our rap music in Europe.
What
we don't have any rap music here. The European, they are not so good with music, in my opinion. I don't like.
Do they have hip hop?
They try to do something, but the Germans, at least, they have no talents for music, or the language is not good for that, and they have no talents. They have other talents, but not for music.
Yeah, because they probably don't tolerate it. They don't have that kind of foolishness on their. They don't have.
They have foolishness.
But not where it's mainstream. See here, that kind of stuff, the degrading, the violence. No. That's like That's like staple now. There's no R&B in the United States anymore. I shouldn't say no, but you know, it's you got to almost find it. They did this. They flipped the script. You know, back in the day, they used to have like blue music, blue artists, and just blue meaning like, you know, you're gonna know it's gonna be cursing, it's gonna be crazy, it's gonna be wild, and you had to go to certain cafes to see and hear that kind of stuff, and you know, the R&B was mainstream, but now it's reverse. To hear really positive, you got to kind of go to these, you know, Nuyorican cafes and these little boutiques to hear this kind of music. Meanwhile, in the so-called mainstream, you get all the, you know, the craziness. So everything is upside down, topsy-turvy. But anyway, I digress. All right, so I want to thank everybody. It's 11:06. Please join us next week. And by the way, keep your comments. As you see, you know, your comments, I'm implementing them. So, you know, we moved the Deshaun Farad report up front. That was a comment. You know, setting up the stage so people know a little bit more about the program. So I really like criticism. So just keep on sending the helpful criticism so that the show can get better. We want to be better, and we know that it'll get better with your support. When you see this, like and share it. Starting on Monday, we will have a YouTube channel. Yes. So with the Colored Only Cafe will be on YouTube starting this Monday. So just put in Colored Only Cafe on YouTube on the 12th, and you'll see this show and last week's show and other shows coming. So we'll still, you know, be here on Zoom and Facebook Live. But people who want to see the archive show, you can go to YouTube. Please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and do those kind of things, because we'll be able to do more, reach more people. We'll be hopefully be able to have somebody on staff to put up those pictures in time, because I'm like doing everything and all that. So we'll be able to do that with your support. I want to thank Dr. Ron. I want to thank Sparrow. Always good to see you. Thanks for your comments. Brother Pete. Free at Last, called Hayes, Kathleen Blanco, Jacqueline Banner, Lydia Percy, Sonny, and Sheila Silva, and of course the great, notorious Deshaun Farad.
It's no tip, Black Power family.
All right, guys.
I don't want to
stay safe.
I don't want to get a lawsuit.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. And definitely check up on your people, please. People who are impacted. You know what's going on. We don't know what's in the air. It smells like smoke, but definitely, check on your elderly and other vulnerable folks to make sure that they're okay. All right. So we'll see you next week. Peace out.